Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brevard. Alongside me is Logan Camden. And today we've got a very fun show for you guys. Going to be talking some NFL, some NBA. If you're watching on YouTube, that'll be two separate shows. But we just couldn't go past today without talking about some of the big stuff that has happened in the NFL. And we'll start with what was hyped up as probably the game of the year, the Super Bowl rematch on Monday Night Football between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Philly, of course, comes out with a win in this one, but it was in the hands of Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who dropped a wide open go-ahead touchdown pass with under 2 minutes remaining, which, Logan, continues a concerning theme throughout this year, which is the play of Kansas City's receivers. So, we've talked about them and how we've maintained faith in them as the AFC favorite. Do you think they can overcome that receiver play and win a Super Bowl this year?
I guess we'll find out. I would probably bet on it right now, but it's almost ironic to me, Carson. I want to give you some flowers to start out the show. I mean, it's almost as you drew it up in our predictions, man. You said verbatim. I think their receiving issues will come back to bite them on the ass. And I mean,
come on.
Carstradamus over here, man.
Nasty Nas. Sorry, go ahead.
Couldn't have cooked any better. I guess we'll find out if the Chiefs can overcome their wideout play. But this is the margin that scared me. This is the margin that can lose you a playoff game in a one-game scenario. You have two red zone turnovers, the Mahomes interception and the Kelsey fumble against a team that can sustain drives. And I bet on what I expected to happen. And what I bet on did happen. I said the Chiefs were going to win. I said Hurts would come up short on the final drive like in the Super Bowl. And I expected Mahomes to do superhuman things. It was lining up perfectly. I mean, it was setting up for Hurts to have a chance to win the game if MVS comes down with that ball. I mean, that's the one play, the swing factor that made the difference for me. The QB play between Hurts and Mahomes. And I was banking on them connecting for that deep shot to give the Chiefs the lead there at the end of the game. I don't know, man. Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Justin Watson are your three leading receivers. The Chiefs weren't the only team with this issue at the trade deadline. We laid out the Bills, a lot of other contenders that were really desperate for number twos or number threes behind Travis Kelce. And the difference in this game isn't just the MVS drop. It's the Justin Watson drop on the third and fourth that ends a drive. The Chiefs this season lead the NFL in drops. Watson is up there. MVS is up there. Kadarius Toney is up there. And it continues a really concerning trend with the Chiefs. I'm sure you saw it on the broadcast as well. It's their third straight second half without any points. It's a really concerning trend. That being said, I thought the Chiefs did a really good job against the Eagles' pass rush. I believe in this defense, and Chris Jones is a game-wrecking defensive weapon. I thought he was imperative to the Chiefs, slowing down the Eagles' offensive attack. I don't know. I mean, it took the Chiefs shooting themselves in the foot twice, and it took some back-breaking drops. I mean, that is the margin in individual games. I don't know. I think they have one of the worst receiving rooms in the entirety of the NFL if you exclude Travis Kelce from that mix. When you just look at the wide receiving room, I think it's up there for one of the worst in the league. It can come back to bite them on the ass. It certainly can. I wouldn't bet on it. I still think, for my money, the Chiefs are still the best team in football. They've got a great defense. They've got the best quarterback in football. That's all I need to buy into. I don't need anything else. Like, can this happen again? Certainly. Do I expect it to? Kind of. These receivers aren't that great, but I just can't bring myself to bet against Patrick Mahomes when I see what he does on the field. I saw what he did. What I expected Patrick Mahomes to do, he came through and he did. But the drops, they're killers. It's a team sport. That's why it's not an individual sport, man. I don't want it to bite him on the ass, but it certainly is the weakest aspect of this Chiefs team.
I do think they can overcome it. I don't view it necessarily as a fatal flaw, something that eliminates them from these conversations among the absolute best teams in football. But it is rare that you can look at a 3-loss team and say 2 of your losses fall directly on the wide receivers. Week 1, Kadarius Toney alone caused a 10-point swing with the pick right off of his hands that the Lions took back for a touchdown, and then with another gimme drop that would have put them in range for a go-ahead field goal. In this game, it's not just the MVS drop. You mentioned a couple others, but on that final drive alone, Kelsey on an easy 3rd and 2, right off his hands. Now, I don't worry about Travis Kelce, but just a symbol of the luck that they have had from their receiving core this year. And then on that 4th and 25, 2 plays after the MVS drop, Mahomes somehow finds a way to get that ball right on Justin Watson's hands. And I'm not saying that that's an easy catch. It's in traffic. He's got contact that he's dealing with. But still, to get that ball in his hands, if you had a really high-level receiver, maybe they do make a play there. And the drops have just remained such a concerning thing for them. And the way that the receiver play has limited this offense, it's always felt inevitably like no matter who you put out there with Mahomes as receivers, as long as he has Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, you're going to be a dominant offense, not just a good one. But last year they had the #1 scoring offense in football. They put up 38 points in a Super Bowl win, and Juju was their number 2, who I guess is okay. Well, he was their #1 receiver, their number 2 target. But then the depth of that group, as we've said, I think improved coming into this year. So it sort of felt like he had checked that off the box. And then I guess they've made it even more of a challenge this year because they're 9th in yards per play. They're 14th in scoring. They have scored 28 points twice all year. Last year, they averaged over 29. Again, that led the league. In Mahomes' first season, Logan, which of course they had Tyreek, that was a different ballgame, but they only missed that 28-point mark 3 times, and it was when they scored 26 and then 27 twice. So the level of game-to-game elite offensive production that we are used to, this group just hasn't shown us that they're capable. In fact, there have been very few like real highs. That Chargers game, they dominated, but it's really just 2 very good offensive games from this year. So I still think they can overcome it because this is the best defense of Mahomes' career, and he is still indisputably the best quarterback in football. But I did not think that it would be this much of a problem through 10 weeks. After week 1, that was like the nightmare scenario. And then it was like, yeah, this could really limit this team. But then Rashee Rice started to come along, and you felt, okay, these guys sort of fill their roles. It's probably enough. And I guess that's still where I come down on this because I have so much faith in Mahomes in the defense, in a flawed AFC. But it's a concern. It is.
It's a major concern, and I think you lay out what's going to be different about this year is it's a completely different formula that the Chiefs are going to have to win with, you know what I mean? Because they don't have that volatility and kind of explosivity in their offense week to week. It's just not there. And, you know, you mentioned that people thought that this is the deepest group that Mahomes had coming into this year. This was by far my least favorite group that he's ever had, and a big part of that was losing Juju. And I know that Juju's not even, I mean, he's barely getting PT in New England.
Yeah.
That's an abysmal offense. And I know that Juju has struggled with his fair share of drops and stuff this year in New England, but what Juju provides to a team is really valuable. I mean, out of the slot, great hands, tough as nails kind of guy, just a reliable guy that you can go to. Like, I thought that was a major, major blow to the receiving core, and it's kind of what they've needed. Like, with MVS, you do have the deep threat, right? You see the separation that MVS creates game to game. It's just about catching the freaking ball, man.
Yeah.
But Justin Watson stinks. I think Rashee Rice is a good number 2. I really do think they're just lacking one more guy that has reliable hands that they could go to. And I don't know. Like we said, man, it could come back to bite them. I'm not going to bet on it, but it's crazy because, I mean, if they have that piece, I mean, I think that they're a 24 a night, 25 a night kind of offense, right? If they just have one more guy. I mean, that's what it feels like, right?
24, 25 a night is still underwhelming, disappointing for the Chiefs. But, yeah, Juju was a guy who they could turn to in the Super Bowl, and I think he had 7 catches in that game. He was reliably open. He was very solid. And I think the value of just a solid number 2 like that, maybe I underestimated because I was looking at the totality of the depth of this core and saying, okay, I think that they have more decent guys, but it is a flaw. And we're going to have to see improvement there because opposite them, the Eagles just keep on chugging along, man. They are the only one-loss team in football, sitting at 9-1. Do you feel like they are clearly the best in the NFL right now?
No, I don't. Like I said, I would still – I think it's neck and neck between these two, the Eagles and the Chiefs. I think they're 1A and 1B. And again, I know that we just saw the Eagles win, so –
yeah.
Take this how you may. I still think the Chiefs are the better football team. I'm going to take them because of the difference that I see in QB play. Jalen Hurts is phenomenal. Jalen Hurts has been great this year after a really slow start. I would still take Mahomes over Hurts. I would still take the Chiefs with the best defense they've ever had. But the one thing, man, damn, the Eagles can run the ball. Like, it is
sure can.
remarkable, man. I don't know the last NFL team. I guess the Baltimore Ravens consistently year to year since Lamar is, cracked onto the scene in 2019. I'm trying to think about before that. There are very few NFL teams that come to mind that can run the ball like this consistently throughout the game. And it is a real weapon to have, especially in a game like this against Mahomes, where you see they force the 2 turnovers. And after that happens, when you force a Chiefs offense that is driven down the field twice to get there, and you take points away from them, then it's just putting them in a vice. It's just squeezing the life out of them and, running that clock down. And that's what they did. That's such an invaluable weapon to have when it comes into playoff time too, man, just in terms of sustaining drives and third downs in the red zone, having the tush push to rely on. There are a few teams that can run the ball like the Eagles do, and that's still crazy valuable. The one crack in the Eagles' armor, because I think it's marginal, and it's ironic to me, because it's the same struggle that the Chiefs have on offense that the Eagles have on defense. I know that the Eagles' secondary doesn't like hearing it, but I do think that is the one crack in their armor. Again, it comes down to that last play. MVS just breaks away if they catch. That's the difference in the game. And again, maybe the Eagles march down the field. Maybe that steal that game. Maybe they get vengeance for the Super Bowl with a game-winning drive that way, and they still win the game. But that, to me, is still the crack in the Eagles' armor, that they allow these big shot plays and that they happen so frequently. That's what could kill them. But that's the distinct edge I'll give to the Eagles offense over the Chiefs offenses. I trust the Eagles to sustain drives and to keep things alive more than any other team in football. They got the best O-line in football. They got great running back weapons, and Jalen Hurts is a special rushing weapon. So I think the Eagles are great. I'm still not ready to crown them definitively as the NFL's best. I'd still give that honor to the Chiefs after a loss, man. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that's where I'm at, and that's how much I believe in Patrick Mahomes and this defense.
I don't think that's ridiculous, because we can look at things exclusively in a results-based way, but sometimes that misses the bigger picture. Like, this game was in the hands of Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who, sure, maybe isn't the most reliable receiver, but you still expect him to make that catch 9 times out of 10. I do think Philly is the best team in football right now, but I wouldn't say clearly. I think that the Niners have the highest ceiling in the NFL. When Brock Purdy is balling, they have obliterated people like nobody else this year. And if he can manage to find that proper balance of creation, of playmaking, without the dumb and the careless turnovers that bit him in that little skid throughout a playoff run, I think that's the best team in football. But I'm concerned enough about him doing that to where I look at Philly's reliable formula and I prefer it by a bit. Same goes for the Chiefs if they can really figure things out offensively, because that defensive foundation is so solid. But the Eagles are just so consistent, man. They aren't blowing teams out of the water this year, but they are winning week in, week out. They are 25-3 when Jalen Hurts starts since the beginning of last season. And although I look at these teams that have higher ceilings potentially, like Kansas City, like the Niners, I don't know if there is a good enough team out there to overcome how Philly just grinds you down physically, how thoroughly they control the game at the line of scrimmage, how elite their athletes on the perimeter offensively are. Like, everybody's flawed, but they dominate in a way, or at least they win in a way that feels most reliable week to week. That being said, they have been outgained significantly in these last 3 weeks by 98 or more yards in each of these last 3 games. So I just don't think there are any great teams this year, except maybe the Niners when Purdy is playing at that level. But they lost 3 games in a row, so we can't call them a truly great team over the totality of this season.
I don't know. I would say there are 4 great teams and the rest
Great?
are good.
Really?
I think Baltimore, Philly, Kansas City, and San Francisco are the great teams. If I had to bet on a Final Four right now, that would be my Final Four. You don't think those teams are great?
No, I think those are 4 really good teams. But I think all of them have had bad losses this year, bad showings. I mean, Philly's point differential is +6 per game. The Chiefs are in that same ballpark. Like, there aren't teams who are running through everybody like the Eagles with Hurts last year were, where they were 14-1 when he played. It feels like most seasons there is that candidate that is just dominating consistently. And Philly is winning almost every week, but they're not dominating like that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. In comparison to, relative, I wouldn't say every year we have that. I would say for a while we have, like, the teams that stand out in my mind, like, the 2011 Packers, the Brady's Patriots every year.
But I'm not even talking on that level. I'm saying, like, last year's Chiefs and Eagles, I think were both concretely better than any team this season.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that.
Like, maybe last year's Niners, too. They can reach that ceiling again, but the run that they were on at the end of the year, where they won whatever it was, 11 straight, and somebody could get hot like that in the home stretch here, but it's just, up to this point, I don't feel like anybody is separated from the pack at that level.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, but it really did feel like last year, once we got to week 13 or, through the early part of the schedule into the back half of the year, it did feel like we were going to get Chiefs-Eagles, and it was almost a foregone conclusion. It still does feel wide open to an extent this year. Let me ask you this. We are praising the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Niners. I know this is a crazy hypothetical, and we're still 3 months out from the Super Bowl. Is there a chance all three of those teams miss the big game?
Ooh. Is there a chance? I think it is possible if the Cowboys play to their utmost potential, but I would not bet on it, especially because Philly's going to have a bye. The Cowboys are going to have to play on the road opening weekend. Well, I think they're going to beat whoever they play in that first playoff game. And then Baltimore could beat Kansas City. It's possible. I would still pick Chiefs-Eagles. Same as things ended last year. Same as I predicted before this year.
I think I would take Chiefs-Niners right now.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see that too. The other thing that is interesting that was born of this game is that Jalen Hurts became the MVP betting favorite after a pretty underwhelming game individually, which I just find really interesting because we mentioned the Cowboys, and I was just thinking, has Jalen Hurts really been better than Dak Prescott this year? Like, both of them started quite slow and then have come on very strong. They're both leading top 5 scoring offenses. The Cowboys actually slightly higher than the number 2 scoring offense. Dak has been, frankly, more consistently great since he did take that leap within this season. They've both been very good, but Hurts has, I would say, been a little bit less consistent. And if you look at the totality of their production, Hurts 2840 total yards between passing and rushing, 24 total touchdowns, 12 turnovers. Dak 2745, little bit behind, 21 touchdowns, but only 6 turnovers, has done a really good job taking care of the football outside of like that one game this year. He's averaging just barely more yards per pass attempt, but then when you consider the gap in support that these two have, the difference in line play, the difference in skill position talent, like Dak really might have been the better player this year. And nobody is mentioning Dak Prescott in any MVP conversations this year. So it just feels like a strange dynamic this year where it's sort of by default going best quarterback on the best team. And you've been pushing for the Tyreek MVP, at least in being in those conversations. I'm really starting to get there. If it's Tyreek, if it's a defensive player like Myles Garrett or TJ Watt, who are completely carrying their teams to competence, I just don't know. This is the most underwhelming elite quarterback year in a long time.
I concur 100%. Another guy that should be up there for DPOY or MVP. Another TD this past Sunday. You mentioned Dak as an MVP candidate. On the other side of the ball for the boys, DaRon Bland has been balling. 6 picks, 4 TDs. It's like, I don't know, man. Let's buck the trend, dude. Let's get a little weird. Like, if this is the year, I'm with you, dude. I'm kind of over it to the point where, it's almost like Peyton's 2009 MVP, and I don't want to rag on Peyton too bad. Like, Peyton had a great year. He was by far the best quarterback of that year, right? But, I mean, it was 4,000 yards. I think it was under 30 TDs, or it was barely over 30. It wasn't a crazy QB year the way we saw with Peyton in 04 or Brady in 07. Chris Johnson that year runs for 2,000 yards, leads the Titans to an 8-8 record. This is with Vince Young, who I love Vince Young. I'm probably one of the biggest Vince Young guys you're going to get. He had 12 TDs to 15 picks that year. He makes the Pro Bowl. They give all this love to Vince Young. It's like Chris Johnson, had some of the I think he top 5 most scrimmage yards in a single season ever, completely put that Titans offense on his back, got them to the playoffs. It's like when a skill position guy is doing that, I believe Johnson wins Offensive Player of the Year, deservedly so. I don't know. I don't understand why we pigeonhole these guys to just offensive or defensive. To me, it's like, I think you mentioned this a couple shows ago, Carson. If we were to do it like that, why not just roll out a full slate of awards like college football does, and we'll do it like that? So to me, it's give it to the most impactful guy on the field. And to me, yeah, dude, I'd go Tyreek. Tell me when to stop, man. Tyreek, Miles, TJ, Deron Bland. Like, I don't know. I feel like all of those guys, with how, like you said, how underwhelming the QB class has been, all of those guys are extremely valid MVP candidates.
And if we are giving it to a quarterback, it should be Lamar. Lamar has played the best football of any quarterback this year. Regardless of what the touchdown totals say, he has been balling. There's so much to be thankful for. Family, friends, food, and NFL football all week long. DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping your Thanksgiving week full of action. New customers can bet just $5 on the NFL action to score $150 instantly in bonus bets.
No matter your appetite, there's something for you. Money lines, parlays, props, live bets, and so much more. You name it, they've got it.
So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code NERDS. New customers can bet $5 on the NFL Thanksgiving action to score $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code NERDS. The crown is yours. But you know who hasn't been balling, Logan, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. But ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead. Matt Canada has officially been fired. And of course, we have to talk about that, man, because I don't know if there's anything that you've pushed for more in recent memory. So congratulations, pal. How does it feel?
Feels great. Feels great.
Yeah.
This was the Steelers Super Bowl. You know, we can't ever get to one because our offense is so limited. This is our Super Bowl, man. My friend of the show, Donnie, texted me immediately, something along those lines. The witch is dead. And I just sent him back, hallelujah, this is a glorious day. It really reminded me after, we talked about this game after it happened against the Browns in our recap. You talked about Ken Dorsey getting fired and how it mirrored kind of Matt Canada. I really do still feel the same way to how I did last game. I put a lot of that blame on Kenny Pickett. This wasn't the game to, fire Matt Canada afterwards. That game was not on Matt Canada. I put that game way more on Kenny Pickett's shoulders. The way that Bills loss was on mental errors and stuff that was out of the control of Ken Dorsey. I felt like this game was lost out of control of Matt Canada. The final play where the Steelers had life, Kenny drops back under center. They've got 3 wideouts, 3 receivers on the right side. They've got 1 receiver on the left side. They're running a crossing pattern with the receiver on the left side, and 2 receivers on the right side are running goes on the right. The idea of this concept is to get everybody on the right side of the field and to completely open up the left side of the field. The running back goes to the flat, takes the linebacker out of the left side of the field. The left side's wide open. The 20 yards out from the end zone to the 20-yard line is wide open on the left half of the side. Deontay Johnson runs a slant to that wide open patch of grass. It is an elementary throw. Carson, I believe me or you could do that. We're not NFL QBs by any means, but a 15-yard...
If I hadn't gotten hurt, bro,
Sure.
if I hadn't gotten hurt,
if you hadn't had that knee injury in high school, you would have gone pro.
I had offers you guys would not believe.
You guys wouldn't get it, man. Carson was a 5-star dude. D1, bona fide.
I don't want to talk about it.
Scholarships, man. All kinds of NIL deals. Devastating. But we could have made that throw back in our primes. It's pretty easy. 15 yards. I mean, dude, your dad used to drop it in the bucket to you when you play out in the yard, man. It's an easy throw. And what does Kenny do? Kenny has it there. And I don't know if it's because he's not tall and he can't see it. I don't know if it's his pocket awareness, his feel. It's this. It's a quick little drop. Deontay runs into the end zone. We take the lead. Browns get the ball back with an opportunity to win the game. Instead, Kenny does what he always does, and he bails out of a clean pocket and walks right into a sack. We should have won that game. Matt Canada drew up a great play to win us that football game, and Kenny didn't execute. And that's kind of the crux of how I feel about this firing. Matt Canada is a problem with the Steelers' offense, and we have gotten rid of one of the problems, but we have certainly not eliminated all of the problems. Kenny Pickett is a major part of that problem. I did a whole spiel on where Kenny falls short, the inconsistency in the miscommunications with the receivers, how inaccurate he has been, how limited he is mobility-wise and in terms of play extension. Kenny's not great, and Kenny still does put a hard cap on the Steelers' offense. So, yeah, I mean, cool. Hopefully these guys are better play callers. Stepping in for the Steelers, we have 2 new offensive coordinators. One of them is going to be calling plays, and one of them is going to be heading the offense. It's Mike Sullivan and I believe a former Steelers running back, Eddie Faulkner. I think Faulkner will be calling plays. Mike Sullivan, former offensive coordinator for the 2012 to 13 Bucks and the 2016 to 17 Giants. So at least we have guys who have NFL experience and some fresh blood in the building. Again, I think this is a firing by Tomlin, very similar to the firing that Sean McDermott did of Dorsey. I think it's more fire the guys up in the locker room, get some life in there, try to get some will into these offensive players and light a fire under their ass that wasn't there. Moreover than it has to do with the guy. But I think they mirror each other a lot. Don't get me wrong. I think he's part of the problem, but I think this is to fire the guys up in the building. But I also do think, there was some stuff under the surface. Najee kind of went off to the press after the game. Deontay Johnson had a blow up on the sideline. So this also could just be the culmination of Matt Canada losing the entirety of the offensive locker room too. I think that has something to do with it as well.
I see what you're saying in terms of this specific game does not fall on Matt Canada. Yeah. Just like the Bills having 12 dudes on the field or Josh Allen dropping a handoff doesn't fall on Ken Dorsey. But the totality of the resume and the body of work from those guys in both cases justified a firing, especially for Matt Canada. Man, and that is not to say that Kenny is free of blame. I don't think Kenny's good. I don't think Najee's good. I don't think the weapons are particularly good. Like, generally...
Jalen Warren is him, though, bro.
Jalen Warren is him, but guess what, Logan? Najee gets 1.5 times the carry.
True.
He gets far more touches. But generally, when an offense is this bad, it's because a lot of things are bad. So it's not to sit here and say, oh my God, removing Matt Canada is going to be a cure-all. That's also not to say that Matt Canada is blameless just because other dudes are bad. I think he is very clearly a bad play caller, probably the least creative play caller in football. And this is something that everybody has been hammering for since before the season. Nobody has liked a single thing that Matt Canada has done up to this point. So I don't really care about the specific circumstances, bro. It's like, the Chargers could win by 20 next week, and if they fired Brandon Staley, I'd still be good with it because it's a foregone conclusion that they should have already done that weeks ago. Matt Canada is exactly in that same boat, man. I am happy for you and Steelers fans everywhere. I'm not confident in this offense taking a big leap forward. I mean, hopefully it gets a little bit better, but you haven't even really made the offensive coordinator hire that you want to. Do you expect Kenny to look different at all, and this offense to look different at all?
That's kind of my one big concern. I do expect the offense to look better. I expect us to, hopefully we utilize Jalen Warren more, just like the fact that he's at 6.2 yards per carry this season, man. I think it's the best mark in the NFL. It's remarkable when Najee, and I know that Najee has to, when he's in the backfield, they load up the box a little more because they're anticipating more runs when Najee's back there, so it's a little more difficult. But I think we should get Warren more involved. I think there needs to be more pre-snap motion. And honestly, Carson, I think the biggest thing isn't even about, is Kenny just going to automatically look better? I think it's, can one of these guys really enhance Kenny and draw up schemes and concepts and simplify things for him on the field? Because it's something that I've said with Brock Purdy and Tua and Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan. It's not just that Tua's great, and it's not just that Brock Purdy's great. They are. But it's because of how the guys behind them, the offensive coordinators, can drop simple stuff for them to dissect. It's like, it's like you're giving Stevie Wonder to Kenny Pickett, man. It's like Matt Canada's never played a down of football in his life. He's not the guy that's going to be able to help him and say, oh, Kenny, here's what you're looking for on this play, or here's what this concept is attacking. I really think Kenny needs someone to help him to simplify things because he is limited as a quarterback. And no, if it's just Kenny, like, I'm not expecting anything dramatically different. But if one of these guys is smart and can scheme up simple stuff for Kenny, that's where I would anticipate a real difference. But I want more creativity. I want Warren to get more touches. And that's really it. Those are my two things, because I think Kenny is going to either figure it out or he's not. I want Warren to get more involved, and I want more creative schemes, concepts, and stuff that is deliberately attacking the defense instead of just saying, hey, Kenny, go out there and make some magic happen. Take this play. Go do with it.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're probably still going to be a bottom 5 to 10 offense in football. I'm not expecting dramatic changes, but hey, man, it's kind of hard to get worse from here, isn't it, Carson?
Certainly is, man. And what's remarkable is I still think the Steelers are probably going to make the playoffs, bro. Next 5 weeks, Bengals with Jake Browning, Arizona Cardinals, New England Patriots, Colts, Bengals with Jake Browning
Here's my
again.
prediction. We missed the playoffs. I still got to rock the toque.
I mean, bro, there's nothing I would love more than you wearing a toupee for a week and then hopefully loving it so much, loving how you look with waves so much that you adopt it for the rest of your life. But that's a lot of easy games, man. Nothing's easy for the Steelers, but they do usually beat bad teams just on the back of those timely defensive plays. Either way, happy for you. Sorry, Matt Canada, but you really had this one coming for a long time.